Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As the Model Trilateral Summit will start shortly, please turn your mobile phone off or make your phone silent mode. Thank you. Welcome to 2015 Trilateral Youth Summit, hosted by Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat, and organized by Asia Exchange Association. Now, without further ado, let's invite 3 leaders from each country. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome them with a big round of applause.
My fellow Prime Minister, esteemed Premier, distinguished guests, honorable delegates, ladies and gentlemen, in this trilateral summit, we will present the joint statements that have been recommended in each committees and also entertain the TCS report from representatives of TCS. I'd like to entertain presidential keynote speeches, starting with myself. It is my great honor to address the members at the opening of the session of the Trilateral Youth Summit. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me first to show my sincere gratitude for having this great opportunity to build a cooperation among fellow countries. I'd like to welcome the honorable delegates from the People's Republic of China and Japan wholeheartedly. Overcoming all those hardships, it is a great honor to host this meaningful event, 2015, the Trilateral Youth Summit, here in Seoul. Despite the critical situation in the Korean Peninsula, a President of the Republic of Korea believes this summit of trilateral cooperation demonstrates a footstep toward the enhancement of the regional peace in Northeast Asia. After 3 years of absence, the 7th Trilateral Foreign Ministers meeting took place here in Seoul this March. I personally perceive that we, the People's Republic of China, Japan, and Republic of Korea are starting a new phase of trilateral cooperation. In order to strengthen the relationships among the three nations, promoting better understandings among each people, especially the younger generation, is very important. The three agendas that will be presented in today's summit, environment, economy, and culture, can provide vital steps towards sharing our visions of Northeast Asia and our responsibilities to bring out solutions for the urgent regional concerns. I acknowledge that our continuous efforts have already been shown in recent ministers' meetings to enhance the trilateral cooperation. In the environmental field, I am grateful that the new Environmental Pact on 5-year cooperation was signed. I expect further cooperation in the economic field since the goal shared among three nations was the continuation of implementing timely and effective macroeconomic policies, which have been settled in the joint statement this May. Furthermore, in the cultural field, bilateral negotiations on sensitive issues have enhanced mutual understandings between the countries. Thus, I highly welcome the trilateral discussions made in this summit. To cope with the shared concerns and to overcome all those challenges raised by the history we share, I find that a joint statement in this summit will strongly enhance our commitment to these agendas. As a member of Northeast Asia, the Republic of Korea promised to take a strong initiative hand in hand with my fellow leaders from China and Japan on striving for a better future. May today's summit present clear visions and constructive pathways for the more peaceful and prosperous Northeast Asia. Thank you. Now I would like to call upon Japanese Prime Minister to address his presidential keynote speech.
Thank you, the President of Republic of Korea, to President Himi Hosaka, Premier Song Hyun-park. Once again, thank you for wonderful hospitality and for hosting this Trilateral Youth Summit. To members of the Trilateral Youth Summit, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is an exciting moment for leaders to meet again here, and it is a great honor to address my speech. I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak to the representatives of more than 1.5 million people of Japan, China, and the Republic of Korea. We are close neighbors separated merely by a strip of waters, enjoying time-honored friendship. China, Japan, and the ROK together represents 74% and 22% of East Asian and world population. 92% and 20% of East Asian and world economy, and 22% and 17% of East Asian and world trade respectively. We are an important engine for the economy of Asia and the world. On this Trilateral Youth Summit, Japan continues to promote FTA, EPA, and Japan is well prepared to participate in TPP, establish FTAP, and the trilateral FTA with Korea and China. Japan would like to promote cultural exchange and initiate Visit East Asia campaign and East Asia Cultural Heritage campaign. The Earth we're living in is the unique one and the only one. Japan possesses the top-class expertise in pollution control technology as well as energy-efficient production system. We are willing to open the technology to Korea and China, looking forward to further breakthrough in both academic researches and practical innovations. In November 1999, leaders from the People's Republic of China, Japan, and Republic of Korea attended a breakfast meeting on the sidelines of the 10+3 summit in the Philippines, which marked the beginning of the trilateral cooperation process. Now, 16 years have passed. We have signed a series of important documents, such as the Joint Declaration on the Promotion of Tripartite Cooperation, the Joint Statement for Tripartite Partnership, Trilateral Cooperation Vision 2020, and Joint Declaration on the Enhancement of Trilateral Comprehensive Cooperative Partnership, etc. Today, we're going to release the 2015 Trilateral Youth Summit Joint Statement. We sincerely wish that, through the effort of trilateral governments and our people, our trilateral cooperation can be further strengthened, and the field of our cooperation can be broadened as well, so that our people of Japan, China, and ROK can live in a more peace, prosperous, and connected Asia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Now I'd like to call upon Chinese Premier to deliver his presidential keynote speech.
Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished country leaders, esteemed delegates, and honorable guests. It is a pleasure to give my presidential address in the Trilateral Youth Summit. Firstly, I thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Korea, the Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat, and the Asian Exchange Association for this wonderful event. I would also like to congratulate all of the delegates on tackling all the challenges of cooperation and bringing stepping stones for the future of the trilateral cooperation. First of all, China has been working to improve the situation in Asia seriously. China has promised to reduce its carbon dioxide emissions per unit of GDP by 60 to 65% by 2030 from 2005 levels. In order to reach these extraneous goals, we are currently working on research, development, and technology sharing. These efficiently combined with environmental education to raise awareness of its own citizens will further strengthen efforts and make the cooperation more efficient. From this cooperation, seeing from the occurrences of the massive explosions in the port of Tianjin this August, we recognized the importance of proper management of hazardous and flammable chemicals. We believe sharing information and cooperation for effective management are integral. Secondly, although China's economy has come to a dip in recent times, it is still the world's second largest economy and an important importer and exporter in the global society. However, as the three countries in the trilateral cooperation are very heavily interdependent on each other's economy, a recession in one country may mean a recession for all. This is why cooperation and agreement is crucial as an economy accounting for 20% of the world's economy. In order to prevent these situations and also receive more funding from overseas investment opportunities, China is working on a Belt and Road Initiative in which stimulates China's own economy, but also a factor in which can be expanded to the Republic of Korea and Japan. Lastly, although the three countries are closely tied by geographical proximity, there are still barriers in cultural terms that need to be overcome. We, as the members of the trilateral cooperation, must find ways of looking through one another's shoes and narrow down the disparate viewpoints of each country. In order to achieve these goals, we would like to expand upon the tourism market and try to get rid of barriers such as the strict visa process, especially in our country. Also, media and other activities such as sports matches and orchestras could be encouraged, some of many ways which allows for creativity and harmony at the same time. In conclusion, we are at a very crucial point of strengthening ties and bonds between the trilateral cooperation. It is important for each country to take responsibility for their actions. All three countries must take the burden as their own and try to lessen the disparity and barriers that are obstacles for peace and harmony in the East Asian region. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier. I will now like to call upon the TCS to present the Trilateral Cooperation Report.
Thank you, Ms. President. The 2015 Trilateral Youth Summit was held in Seoul, the Republic of Korea, from August 24th to 27th, 2015. 30 representatives from the People's Republic of China, Japan, and the Republic of Korea actively engaged in an in-depth discussion on the trilateral cooperation and joined hands to propose healthier cooperation mechanisms. As a result, The young leaders successfully achieved the breakthrough as they adopted the joint statements on trilateral cooperation in 3 different areas: environment, economy, and culture. In light of the established trilateral consultative mechanisms and the facilitated cooperative networks, the trilateral cooperation has been progressing in a productive and healthy manner. With the increased recognition of its importance and necessity in the process of international and regional cooperation, young scholars acknowledge the potential of the trilateral cooperation and emphasize the responsibilities of Northeast Asia, especially China, Japan, and Korea, to strengthen their cooperation efforts.
There were 3 agendas in Environment Committee. First, intellectual cooperation. The first and the second session of the Environment Committee meeting of the 2015 Trilateral Youth Summit was held in Seoul, Korea from August 24th to 26th, 2015. The delegates firmly acknowledged the importance and the need of trilateral partnerships and agreed to share information and equal burdens in order to build mutual trust on solving current environmental problems in the region. The Republic of Korea agreed on information sharing, which is not limited to either at the government level or at the private sector level, and indicated that each private sector will gain benefits from government promotion. The People's Republic of China announced to share technology and knowledge with other nations, which it gained through the specialists who assembled at academic institutions related to international studies. During the second session, China promised to have the transfer of technology in fields of labor, resource, and joint research projects. All nations emphasized a sense of responsibility in terms of solving the environmental problems, not only for their own countries, but also for the whole Northeast Asian region. Moreover, the committee acknowledged the situation that many private companies are not willing to give up their patents at the low prices, but all 3 governments urged private sectors to be willing to share their research products and patents with the whole society. In the end, the committee concluded that the technology transfer will be implemented under the situation when patents are not necessary or at the risk of being used incorrectly. The second agenda was standardization. In the first session of the 2015 Trilateral Youth Summit, the delegate of Japan proposed his curiosity on the standard of measurement of pollution. Afterwards, the committee was alarmed to find out that the 3 nations have used different standards in their researches and thus produced different experiment results, which have caused different approaches to the environmental problems among the 3 nations. The 3 countries exchanged their views on the adequate scale of new standard measurement through vibrant debates. Finally, the 3 countries agreed on following the world standards that was issued by the World Health Organization and the United Nations Environment Program. The last agenda was cooperation on potential area. Throughout the sessions of the 2015 Trilateral Youth Summit, the delegates of the 3 nations in the Environmental Committee discussed on potential areas on which the 3 nations may cooperate: education and pollution control. The delegate of China called for the situation in which education is lacking regarding the environmental problems. China suggested that the method of fostering environmental specialists in education, and Korea also suggested further investments to the related institutions and urged for active international exchange of information. The committee held the discussion related to the continuous air pollution, climate change, and the management of illegal hazardous chemical dumping. The 3 countries agreed to start from the standardization of pollution measurement. As some results have been exaggerated, the promised further discussion regarding the actual policy coordination for pollution control measures.
The second Economy Committee meeting of the Trilateral Youth Summit was held in Seoul, Korea from August 24th to 26th, 2015. Several issues were discussed during the committee meetings, but most importantly, the committee was committed to the direction of last year's discussion on facilitating negotiations on the China-Japan-Korea Free Trade Agreement. Then, the committee broadly discussed lowering trade barriers standards related to various areas such as sanitation, toxicity, and food labeling, and air traffics, including the issues of open skies. The committee succeeded in producing a joint statement which broadly covers these issues through a series of discussions. The committee made a recommendation that subsequent meeting to discuss the framework for the trilateral cooperation related to the protection of intellectual property rights and the enforcement of intellectual property laws. There were three main agendas discussed in the committee, and the first was on trade agreements. The People's Republic of China, Japan, and the Republic of Korea agreed that the current trade barriers set up by each nation in the form of regulation, standards, or requirements on imported goods are adding onto the complexity in existing trade barriers. Each country shared the difficulties that high trade barriers pose in the regional trade network and agreed to join hands together to reduce complexity in the current laws and regulations only, without further amendments on these standards. The countries were committed to reducing unnecessary protectionism in the trade agreements. The committee also identified the additional key areas of cooperation, including technology development and engineering. These fields aim to make a predictable environment for trade, which will favor and attract private sectors to participate more in trade among the three countries for their mutual benefits. A key commodity in the CJK FTA was rice, while committee members jointly agreed that other agricultural products should be traded freely and openly with as little restrictions as possible. The conclusion on rice was very different. Nations were able to reach the agreement with the condition that tariffs and other regulations to be maintained at the present time and be gradually reduced over the next 20 years. Since rice is a more sensitive commodity, the committee were concerned that a sudden spike in the supply of rice from overseas could severely cripple domestic farmers if they are not given sufficient time and opportunity to respond. Second part of discussion was on sanitary and phytosanitary standards. As an agricultural sector would be a potentially valuable market, the committee also recognized the need to set up phytosanitary standards. These standards ensure that production, trade, and consumption of agricultural products are not adversely affected by contamination or infection, which spreads quickly within the agricultural settings. It is necessary to establish common standards on contaminant and toxin levels, as well as approval processes for the use of chemical additives. The committee acknowledged the need to set standards and procedures for inspection and subsequent quarantine of producers that do not meet phytosanitary standards. In particular, pests and diseases have the potential to wipe out or severely cripple agricultural production, causing major disruptions to supply at best, or leading to food shortages and public health consequences at worst. Production facilities across the three countries which create products for export need to be certified so that they meet the joint requirement of the three countries. Lastly, on air travel, the committee agreed that the trilateral open skies agreement would provide more affordable, convenient, and efficient air services. These would be mutually beneficial to each country in boosting both travel and trade. In particular, the prospect of a joint project to create an Asian aircraft manufacturer is expected to help in meeting the increase in demands for aircraft and airliners in the upcoming years. The committee termed this as an Asian Airbus in their joint statement and stated that it would build on the existing Chinese-Korean negotiations on creating the Asian version of Airbus. To conclude on the potential cooperation in intellectual property laws and enforcement, the committee agreed that further subsequent discussions on common intellectual property laws and enforcement would be needed in the future. It was agreed that the protection of intellectual property rights and the frameworks of enforcing them across countries will be negotiated in the coming years to facilitate innovation and to spur the development of future technologies.
The Culture Committee meeting of the 2015 Trilateral Cooperation Summit was held in Seoul, Korea. The People's Republic of China, Japan, and the Republic of Korea have acknowledged the necessity of trilateral cultural cooperation and embraced the contribution of cultural industries in the economic growth of each nation. Moreover, the three nations proposed cultural exchanges as the most effective and essential to build trust within the trilateral partnerships and succeeded to reach a consensus on 4 different agendas. The first agenda of the committee was visa system. All three countries conceded the inevitability of amendments to existing visa regulations for the purpose of enhancing exchanges among nations. The committee agreed to lift the requirement of traveling visas for all tourists, including individual travelers, if each government can ensure legitimate identities and verify comprehensive economic status of prospective tourists. The second agenda of the committee was cultural exchange. The three nations consented to the launch of a new cultural and historical exchange campaign, East Asia Cultural Heritage Campaign, which was originally proposed by Japan as the supportive mechanism of the past Visit East Asia campaign. The new campaign focuses on the comprehensive understanding of the general Northeast Asian history and the preservation of both tangible and intangible cultural heritages in each nation. However, there are more rooms for cooperation in the cultural exchange center, such as sports or music, so more efforts on the cultural exchange are to be seen at the next meeting. The third agenda of the committee was academic exchange. China, Japan, and Korea made a consensus on the creation of the three-campus exchange program, which is modeled after the European Erasmus program as a remedy to the previous Campus Asia program. The new program focuses on cross-border class registrations and integrated exchange programs for all university students. In addition to the university student programs, the committee agreed to continue intensive programs for high school students and to further develop current bilateral programs into trilateral programs. Moreover, the three nations decided the Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat to become a hosting organization of the academic exchange programs. However, further discussions among the three countries are required for the settlement of exact roles and responsibilities of the TCS in the trilateral cooperation on academic exchanges. The fourth agenda of the committee was intellectual property rights. From the beginning of the committee, Japan proposed the issue of intellectual property rights, IPR, as an urgent agenda in the trilateral cooperation. China and Korea both shared the views that the protection of IPR and the prevention of IPR violation are essential for the development of each nation's media industries. First, China, Japan, and Korea decided to set up the same or similar standards of legal identification of IPR, tort activities, and patents. Secondly, the three governments agreed to host a series of workshops and conventions for the purpose of exchanging general information of IPR, such as laws and regulations. Thirdly, the three countries promised to further discuss the issue of high prices of media contents under the framework of China-Japan-Korea Free Trade Agreement. The consensus was formed under the general assumption that Japan and Korea will provide necessary technological and procedural assistance to China regarding the IPR issues. Building upon the above progress, young generations of the three countries will continue to foster the trilateral discussion for the peace and prosperity of the region. As the generation changes, the future generation recognizes the necessity of building the foundation for the future for the trilateral cooperation to form prosperous and peaceful Northeast Asia and to maintain momentum of the cooperation efforts. Furthermore, along with the progress of the trilateral cooperation, the TCS recognizes the needs of the organization to assume greater role and responsibility in realizing the visions and the key cooperation projects across the board. In this regard, the TCS will continue to provide support for various trilateral mechanisms, carry out trilateral initiatives, and continue to explore new avenues of cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, representatives of TCS. We shall now proceed to introducing agendas of the three committees. The first committee's agenda is trilateral cooperation on the environment. Now I would like to call upon the Chinese Premier to introduce the joint statement of the Environment Committee.
Thank you, President of Republic of Korea. We, the leaders of the People's Republic of China, Japan, and the Republic of Korea, shared the view that climate change is critical for sustainable development that is vital for our nations at stake. This severe situation brings us high-level cooperation, excluding our political and historical tensions. Trilateral cooperation is in need of all-dimensional, wide-ranging, and multi-layered efforts. Among them are technology information sharing, environmental awareness, and trilateral standardization for air pollution. These three giant steps brings us into the new phase of protecting our societies from severe results of climate change, acknowledging that there is sound foundation and potential to enhance and strengthen trilateral environmental cooperation. We decided to advance our cooperation in environment as follows. To promote education on environmental technology by the private sectors with government incentives such as tax breaks and subsidies. To organize joint research for innovations in particular fields such as air quality management with funding from the respective governments as well as the regular exchange of researchers. To set up collaboration projects using each other's resources, expertise, and knowledge, such as one country offering technology, the others, material resources, and labor. To implement technology transfer in occasions where patents are not necessarily or at risk of being misused. To popularize the environmental education among college students by adding more related lectures and activities in the universities of Program Campus Asia. To establish common environmental education standards for primary schools, high schools, and universities. To set up a big public online community discussing environmental issues. It enables people from all three countries to share their own ideas from which people will be more familiar with the situation of other countries and build up the sense of involvement. To make an advertising film about the protection of the environment annually, making it a tradition of three countries. People from China, Japan, and Korea can participate in the process by making their own films on environmental protection. The best one will be chosen as the annual film for environment and awarded. To acknowledge the importance of standardization and recognize the fact that the People's Republic of China, Japan, and the Republic of Korea have different researches and produce different results, which cause the differences among three countries. To stress the need of finding a neutral set of new trilateral standards that can follow the recommendation of world standards issued by the WHO and UNEP. To start the new trilateral research project under the guidance of the international government, the United Nations Environmental Program, which has a nonpartisan, neutral standing point. We believe this new research can lead us into the development of a new unbiased trilateral standard. To form a new institution that is nonpartisan and a government-level institution that only serves for creating and monitoring trilateral standards. The members of this institution will consist of scholars, scientists, and bureaucrats from environmental ministries of each nation, including the bureaucrats from the international organization. We support and urge the environmental ministers of our three countries to hold regular meetings on a rotational basis for interaction, monitoring, and coordination on major issues of environmental problems and climate change. For our next generations, our task and mission of preparing and preventing possible environmental disasters brings our efforts to cooperate, deferring our cultural, historical, and political differences. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier. Now I would like to invite representatives of the Environment Committee to deliver additional comments for this joint statement. Now I'd like to call upon a delegate from Korea to deliver your comments.
Thank you, Madam President, Your Excellencies, and my fellow delegates. It is grateful to see our cooperation finally rose to the surface and appeared in our joint statement. The delegates of Republic of Korea are here to fully support what we have agreed and willing to show the execution of future planning from the promises of the joint statement. Your Excellencies, the result of joint statement on the environment is not only an important issue to consider for us, but also for our future generations. The serious condition of our economic difficulties and political tensions are important to take notice. But the climate change and hazardous environmental situation can directly impact upon our lives. Those problems are not invisible. We cannot turn away from them anymore. The single, independent effort cannot be the answer anymore in East Asia. This cooperation is the initiation of effective, multifunctional measures. Our three main goals, technological sharing, environmental awareness, and standardization, will be the stimulation of our process. The technological and intellectual sharing was the one that three countries have been considered as the important measures. The Republic of Korea will be the main hub for intellectual sharing and willing to have a more scholastic discussion and diagnosis of the climate change. In the matter of environmental awareness, education will be the stepping stone for our future eco-friendly lifestyle, which has been the basis lifestyle of Japan. The Republic of Korea and the People's Republic of China can recognize the environmental awareness through advanced environmental education programs in our educational institutions. Lastly, standardization can make an effective measure to limit our further air, water, and land pollutions. This standard may yet to reach the world standard. However, through this more cooperation and planning achievable goals, we'll meet our global standards in the near future. John F. Kennedy said, "Our problems are man-made, therefore they may be solved by man." Our distinguished leaders and delegates, we hold a hammer. The hammer can be the tool of destruction, but also to build magnificent works. It is our belief we can choose the latter. We expect that our next meetings will be another success as this year. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate from Korea. Now I would like to call upon a delegate from China to deliver additional comments.
Thank you, the delegate of Korea. So we are very pleased that the three countries have agreement on the field of environment, which are the technology information sharing and the environmental awareness and the trilateral standardization for air pollutions. First, we appreciate the closer cooperation with the technology information sharing. We acknowledge that Republic of Korea and Japan has advanced eco-friendly technologies and some past experience of the environmental issues. And second, we would like to share the acknowledgement and the system of the way to raise environmental awareness to the public, and including some environmental education and some eco-friendly lifestyle. Third, as for the trilateral standardization for air pollution, we understand that the environment is not only national issue, but also for the regional and the international issues. So the common standards of measurement is important for these issues. So we will continue to make every effort to implement views written in the joint statement this time. And in this summit, we will put an emphasis on the forward-looking policies such as joint research and development project, and both in the private sector level and the governmental level. So we believe that we will continue to make further and stable cooperation throughout the future. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate from China. Next, I'd like to call upon delegate from Japan.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, delegates from China and Korea. As we see, the joint statement focuses on what fields we can cooperate and we can do it effectively. It's all about sharing and understanding. We all agree on the sharing of environmental technology and the related information because all of us can benefit from it directly. This is not just the sharing of innovation and data, it's the sharing of our wisdom, which will bind us together and enable us to face our mutual rival, the climate change. Japan is the global leader of environmental protection and possesses the top-class expertise in pollution control and in energy-efficient production system. So Japan looks forward to performing technology cooperation more actively in the future. The second topic is to strengthen people's awareness of environmental protection, which features on environmental education. We came up with the approaches like spreading the education under the framework of Campus Asia, set up in an online community of 3 countries and standardizing the environmental education from primary school to college. In Japan, people inclined to buy more eco-friendly cars and separate the trash followed by policy 5R. That is an example of eco-friendly life. We believe as long as we 3 countries take it seriously to enhance people's awareness, the idea of environment protection will become part of our life. The statement also emphasizes the mutual standard. As is said in the joint statement, being objective is our first goal. Although there is already a strict world standard about air pollution, energy conversion ratio, and so on, none of us have completely reached the requirement. So our common standard will carefully consider the actual situation of each country and serve as a stepstone leading us to the next level. There is an idea throughout the whole statement, the human right. People have the right to live in a comfortable environment. And we are all here to give our people clean air, a cooler weather, and a blue sky. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate from Japan. Thank you, distinguished delegates from the Environment Committee. The second committee's agenda is trilateral cooperation on economy. Now I'd like to call upon the Japanese Prime Minister to introduce the joint statement of the Economy Committee.
Thank you, President of Republic of Korea. Joint statement on economic cooperation. We, the leaders of the People's Republic of China, the Republic of Korea, and Japan, share the view that economy is crucial for the development of the trilateral nations and the welfare of our peoples. Economic cooperation among the 3 countries is conducive to ameliorating the trade among 3 countries, recovering from past financial crises and stabilizing the economy as a whole. It also helps our 3 countries to break through the forthcoming economic downturn, promote steady growth of all 3 countries. We were also aware that sound cooperation in economy will establish a stronger link among trilateral countries to solve long-lasting conflicts and bring peace and prosperity to Northeast Asia. We welcome the 2015 Trilateral Youth Summit held in Stanford Hotel, Seoul on 25th August 2015, and its fruitful outcomes. And we spoke highly of the effective cooperation among the 3 countries covering diverse fields, acknowledging that there is sound foundation and great potential to enhance trilateral economic cooperation. We decided to advance our cooperation in economy as follows: to bring agreement in deconstructing technical barriers to trade agreement and ensure that technical regulations, standards, and conformity assessment procedures are non-discriminatory and do not create unnecessary protectionism on trade. This includes, but is not limited to, technology development, engineering division, and electronic commerce. This measure will also aim to create a predictable trading environment. To advance a free trade deal of agricultural products that covers all of the goods except for rice, based on the agreement that tariff will be gradually eliminated in 2 decades. Rice is given an exception because it is selected as a highly sensitive product, and excessively inflow of rice will severely hurt farmers. Agreeing on the application of the sanitary and phytosanitary by trilateral cooperation, common standards such as, but not limited to: 1. Setting proper residue levels for toxins and contaminants and approving procedures for additives. 2. Quarantine requirements to reduce spread of pests and diseases. 3. Labeling requirements to notify consumers of potentially harmful food products and providing prior notice of new and changed sanitary and phytosanitary regulations. 4. Regulating governing and production process where products will be made. to conclude trilateral open skies agreement to provide more affordable, convenient, and efficient air service, which would promote increased travel and trade among the three parties. To work on a joint pilot project of creating Asian Airbus, given the expected growth in demand for air travel in Asia in coming few decades. Open sky agreement we proposed will also increase demand for it. It will be a great opportunity for CJK to cooperate in this field because it requires each country to share their strongest points and create aircrafts together. This will foster economic cooperation and complementaries in this region. We will be able to build upon the existing Chinese-Korean negotiation on creation of Asian version of Airbus. To continue further discussion on intellectual property rights over the span of next trilateral youth summits to reach consensus on how to put together a shared goal of protecting intellectual property rights. We supported the chairman and the executive board to develop promising ways to enhance trilateral economic stance. The committee as a whole has best regards to have regular meetings on a rotational basis for communication and coordination on major issues of cooperation in the field of economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Now I'd like to invite representatives of the Economic Committee to deliver additional comments for this joint statement. Firstly, I would like to invite the delegate from Korea.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here. We'd like to first thank Your Excellencies, executive members who've organized this summit. And we'd also like to thank Japanese and Chinese delegates for hard work during the past few days. The Republic of Korea really appreciates the achievements we've made in this summit. First of all, we made some remarkable progress on some contentious issues of trilateral FTA negotiation, such as technological barrier to trade, exemption of free trade of some agricultural products, and sanitary and site sanitary standard. These were one of the main points that had been delaying the negotiation of trilateral FTA. We should further build upon this achievement we've made and eventually realize trilateral FTA in the near future in order to enhance intra-regional economic linkage and to bring peace and prosperity in this region. Besides these controversial issues, we also freely discussed the areas of future possible economic cooperation. We agreed to include trilateral cooperation plan, such as conclusion of open skies agreement and joint pilot plan of creating Asian Airbus. One of the greatest concerns of the Republic of Korea is that these countries are competing with each other in similar industrial areas rather than sharing strength of each country. It is obviously better to focus on each strength and share them rather than competing with each other. We found this aviational area is a perfect field to start complementary economic cooperation because entering aircraft market inevitably requires work specialization among our region, as the birth of Airbus in Europe has proved before. During the negotiation process, we saw many arguments based on national interests rather than Northeast Asian interests in longer term. Unlike European countries, our discussion was still largely within the intergovernmental framework, not supranational one. This reflects the current situation of Northeast Asia. However, the Republic of Korea strongly believes that these cooperations we agreed upon will bring spillover effect into the future and will allow us to act more in favor of Northeast Asian interests rather than only sticking to individual national interests. The Republic of Korea is quite pleased to have great discussions with Chinese and Japanese counterparts. We are certain that these interactions and agreements will result in further trilateral cooperation and bring peace and prosperity in our region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, delegate from Korea. Now I'd like to call upon a delegate from China to deliver additional comments for this joint statement.
Her Excellency, Madam President Park, His Excellency Premier Lee, and His Excellency Prime Minister Abe, and distinguished delegates, good afternoon. 大家下午好. China is very grateful to be here today. The Chinese delegation from Economic Committee would like to first by thanking the President of Korea for hosting this summit this year. We also would like to thank Prime Minister Abe for his strong leadership that he has demonstrated for the committee sessions over the past few days. The Economic Committee of the 2015 Trilateral Youth Summit has had substantial discussions on a wide range of issues concerning ways to enhance economic cooperation and integration among the three Northeast Asian countries. We have also discussed specific details of the ongoing trilateral free trade negotiations and have agreed that the trilateral cooperation is extremely critical for peace and prosperity in Northeast Asia. China welcomed the detailed discussions on such issues as the application of the sanitary and phytosanitary regulations and the importance of the intellectual property rights and continued improvements on technical barriers to trade and the implication of joint economic projects on Asian-made aviation industry. China also acknowledged that to realize free trade agreements that is beneficial to all parties involved will require further discussions and negotiations on the above-mentioned four issues. A joint pilot project of creating Asian Airbus in particular is another promising example for the trilateral cooperation among China, Japan, and Korea. Already under discussion with the Republic of Korea on China-Korea aviation issue, this new potential joint project where China is in charge of the final assembly of the aircraft and body production, while Korea is in charge of wing parts and aircraft IT, and Japan is in charge of aircraft and body production and engines and advanced material, will bring multiplied synergy effects across Northeast Asia, which will ultimately contribute to the world economy as well as the regional economy. On a concluding note, China's commitment and efforts for regional economic cooperation will never waver. Our increasingly interconnected economic cooperation over the past few years have already begun to produce tangible effects across the globe, and China looks forward to contributing further to this initiative. The 21st century is often called the most globalized era of our time. China, in the midst of this new trend in world politics and economy, is ready to further contribute to peace, prosperity, and transparency of our world economy. We thank once again Korea and Japan for their cooperation in many issues we face in common, and we are confident that because of our hard work and dedication to make this world a better place, our region is about to become a better region. And we look forward to continuing our dialogues in the years ahead. Thank you very much for your attention. 谢谢大家.
Thank you, delegate from China. I'd like to call upon a delegate from Japan.
Distinguished President, Premier, Prime Minister, and all delegates, good afternoon. Delegate of Japan is appreciative of Korea's effort to host this summit and the contribution from all delegates of our three parties to come to the consensus. It is inevitable that divergences on economic interests sometimes drive us apart, but we have gathered together to overcome all frustration to push forward our economic cooperation on many essential fields, especially in the fields of agriculture and open skies agreement. Japan welcomes the free trade agreement on agriculture, as it is expected to offer people of Northeast Asia a great opportunity to enjoy fine quality products while ensuring sustainable growth for rice farmers. Trilateral Open Skies Agreement will also be a boost for more affordable, convenient, and efficient service, which would facilitate increasing travel and trade among us. Japan believes that this trilateral agreement will benefit Japan, China, and Korea by improving the life quality and welfare of our people, and this will drive our economic development for the long run. To conclude, Japan regards this agreement as a remarkable step towards our economic integration, and Japan is always open to further discussions and negotiations in order to promote peace and prosperity in three countries. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you, delegate from Japan, honorable delegates from the Economic Committee. Now I'd like to introduce the third committee's agenda, which is trilateral cooperation on culture. I will now deliver the joint statement of the Culture Committee. We, the leaders of the People's Republic of China, Japan, and the Republic of Korea, share the view that cultural cooperation is essential for the development of our nations and the welfare of our peoples. Cultural cooperation among the three countries is essential for promoting steady peace and security in Northeast Asia. A smooth, active personal exchanges among the three countries, which brings easier visits and more frequent exchanges of culture, such as music or movies, among each other. Cultural cooperation also helps our three countries to boost respective economic growth. We are aware that encouraging cultural exchange is important for all three countries. Based on the issues mentioned above, we focus on 4 specific agendas: modifications on visa system, cultural exchange, academic exchange, and amendments to intellectual property rights. First, modification of visa system. Acknowledging that tourism among the three nations is flourishing, there are still barriers obstructing the flow of people, especially mandatory requirement for visa, which burdens people with the economic cost and the time-consuming procedures. Our discussion on this agenda is as follows. To fulfill free travel among the three nations, we will cancel tourist visa under the condition that each nation ensures the legitimate identity of the prospective tourist. This will be further proceeded with the verification of comprehensive economic status, such as, but not limited to, real estate, stocks, occupation, and deposits. To boost the tourism in order to better comprehend different cultures, more mobility should be provided to the visitors. This will be promoted by allowing tourists to have individual travels instead of limiting them only to package tours. Second, cultural exchange. Recognizing the lack of historical exchange among the trilateral cooperation projects, and for the support of Visit East Asia campaign launched in this April by the Ministerial Conference on Tourism, the three nations agreed in launching East Asia Cultural Heritage Campaign as a means of cultural exchange. The programs of East Asia Cultural Heritage Campaign are as follows. To better preserve the precious cultural heritage of each nation, workshops among the administrative personnel of heritage management branches of three governments will be recommended, as well as among restorers to share their skills. To advocate intangible cultural heritage in a time when many youths choose wealth over responsibility of keeping tradition, three nations' intangible cultural heritage, with the cooperation of each nation's Ministry of Culture, will be provided with the opportunity to share ideas on ways to preserve the tradition. To promote comprehensive understanding of national history in the context of Northeast Asian history, selected number of history teachers from each nation will visit cultural heritage sites. Choice made by the respective nation. Teachers will exchange thoughts during the program and will write a report describing how they can incorporate what they have learned from the program into their classes. To implement open mind and comprehensive understanding of Northeast Asian history, selected number of students from each nation will visit culture heritage sites chosen by the respective nation along with cultural experiences. Third, academic exchange. Acknowledging that there is sound foundation and great potential to enhance trilateral academic cooperation, we decided to maximize our human resource potential through following mechanism. To boost deeper understanding of neighboring countries, we propose the creation of 3 campus exchange programs modeled after the European Erasmus program, allowing students to take class cross-border. Providing their major classes together with special programs related to each nation's culture, the 3 campus exchange program would allow students to have greater opportunities and to experience similarities and differences among the 3 nations. To provide university students with more choices in choosing their exchange schools, the Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat, TCS, will promote integrated exchange programs. We'll upload a list of the schools linked to receive other 2 countries' students to their schools. This will help students apply to a wider variety of universities through the cooperation of each government's Ministry of Education. To promote mutual understanding, an intensive summer program for high school students will be held during vacations to ponder upon common challenges. Noting that several bilateral student exchange programs pre-exist, we will expand these to a trilateral program. To sustain relations developed through exchange programs, alumni database will be developed, matching previous participants with post-participants as mentors and mentees to share their experience. To put together research efforts and facilitate fruitful debate, trilateral humanities workshops will be held every month, inviting experts from 3 countries under different themes so that they can share views and ideas on their expertise. The materials of the workshop will be shared to wider public by publishing periodicals. Fourth, intellectual property rights. We, the leaders of the People's Republic of China, Japan, and the Republic of Korea, share the view that protecting the intellectual property rights and preventing IPR violation are very important to our media markets. We are aware that nations have to find a way to protect intellectual properties while still encouraging the flow of ideas. We appreciate that for years, officials from 3 nations have promised to improve the protection of intellectual property. Media industry has become an important engine to our economies, and we have cooperated across both traditional and new media. As IPR violation has become a growing concern of 3 countries' leaders and people, we decided to advance our cooperation in intellectual property protection as follows. To exchange information on laws and regulations regarding intellectual property protection, we will set up the similar standard of legal identification of IPR, tort activities, and patents. To provide more and easier access to intellectual products, we will lessen the barriers on the flow of certain intellectual products to avoid media black market. Furthermore, the 3 nations agreed to discuss intellectual properties in detail under the framework of CJKFTA by forming special task force on the measure. To share ideas and technologies in media industry and on IPR issues, we will encourage cooperation from both non-governmental and governmental agencies through workshops with the assistance from competent government bureaus of the 3 nations. To exchange ideas among music and movie producers about the definition of plagiarism and the types of actions that are illegal, we will be holding conventions which invite government officials on the field of intellectual property. We supported the improvement on cooperation among 3 nations in cultural areas by mainly focusing on the methods of exchange, which included the amendments in visa regulations, historical campaigns, and academic exchange. Regarding the media agenda, 3 nations cooperated to hold various workshops related to the regulations of plagiarism and the development of media industries. Lastly, the three nations have agreed to hold regular meetings among competent departments in each government under the agenda of perfecting the legal system of intellectual property protection, sharing information experience on protecting IPR, on preventing crimes of intellectual properties. Now I would like to invite representatives of the Culture Committee to deliver additional comments for this joint statement. Now I would like to call upon the delegate from Korea.
Thank you, Ms. President, honorable delegates, and esteemed leaders. The delegate of Republic of Korea congratulates the passing of the joint statement on the trilateral cultural cooperation. Here, I would like to express my gratitude to your dedicated work in the joint statement for the past 3 days. Within the sideline of the ministerial conference, we have exchanged our views frankly on the agenda of visa system, cultural communication, the protection of the intellectual property rights, and other important cultural cooperation issues. After the careful analysis and consultation, we have reached a consensus on the fields mentioned above. We have seen a rapid growth in a trilateral tourism industry in recent years. The Republic of Korea believes that it is of great importance to cancel the tourist visa among 3 countries under certain conditions, which can boost the free flow of individual travelers. As we all know that we share cultural proximity, our nations enjoy a reputation for profound historical heritage. In the matter of this field, the Republic of Korea promised to promote a better coordination in preserving these precious cultural and historical treasures, which are beneficial to the enhancement of mutual understanding. We also reached the consensus on other issues, such as academic exchange programs and the protection of the intellectual property rights, which are quite essential, which are quite influential. To sum up, the Republic of Korea believes that today's achievement will be far-reaching in the trilateral cultural cooperation progress, and we guarantee our full commitment in the promotion of an integrated East Asia and the realization of such Northeast Asia in the real world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, delegate from Korea. I'd like to call upon the delegate from China.
Thank you. Honorable delegates and esteemed chairs, the delegate of the People's Republic of China is delighted to see the complete joint statements which reflect opinions of all 3 nations. She appreciates for the efforts other delegates have put in so that we have had a fruitful debate. Culture Committee in the 2015 of Trilateral Youth Summit came up with chiefly 4 agendas: modification of visa system, cultural and academic exchanges, and amendments to intellectual property rights. Delegation of the PRC was particularly concerned about tackling the issues of visa among the 3 nations. Considering the tourism thriving within the 3 countries, she believed simplifying the intricate process was vital. Through discussion, the 3 countries came into a consensus of lifting the visa requirements under the following conditions. Respective government will fully cooperate to verify the identity of travelers to solve the problems of misusing traveling visa while giving more mobility to tourists. Regarding the cultural and academic exchanges, the three nations agreed on East Asia Cultural Heritage Campaign with detailed programs, such as, but not limited to, holding workshops, exchanging programs for teachers, and visiting cultural heritage sites. As for academic exchanges, 3 campus exchange program, modeling the European Erasmus program, will expand choices of schools and develop alumni database, which allows to build network over the borders. The delegation of the PRC expects diverse networks that will prompt intellectual integration, leading to produce synergy effects. It was an honor for the delegate of the PRC to participate in the conference and was glad to see the accomplishments. The PRC looks forward to seeing further discussion and cooperation as a member of the international society. Hoping this conference will be the platform for the 3 nations to further interact, the PRC will always welcome advice and suggestion for mutual improvement. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate from China. I'd like to call upon the delegate from Japan.
Thank you, President, and all delegates. Japan congratulates on having the great joint statement in the 2015 Trilateral Youth Summit. I also appreciate this gathering for further enhance the cooperation among the 3 nations. First, Japan regarded the lack of personal exchange as an urgent problem that we should solve immediately. Recognizing that there is only a few historic exchange programs among the 3 nations, and supporting the Visit East Asia campaign launched in this April by the Ministerial Conference on Tourism, Japan suggested the establishment of the East Asia Cultural Heritage Campaign, and the 3 nations agreed on it as a steady means of cultural exchange. Second, I would like to emphasize the importance of protecting intellectual property rights, as Japan feels its responsibility to focus on this issue as the first nation to have adopted treaty on intellectual property. Acknowledging that there are a lot of intellectual property violations that impact negatively on these 3 countries, Japan proposed to set up a standard and workshops for producers on media markets to prevent the violation. Through the debates, the 3 nations reached a consensus on having workshops to share the ideas and knowledge about intellectual property rights among 3 nations. Japan believes that this joint statement enhances peace and prosperity of Northeast Asia and promises to keep on making efforts on promoting the trilateral cooperation among the People's Republic of China, the Republic of Korea, and Japan. Japan hopes to see further progress in trilateral cooperation on culture in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate from Japan, esteemed delegates from the Culture Committee. Now I would like to invite the Chinese Premier and Japanese Prime Minister to make his final remarks on the sum of the joint statements.
Thank you, President of the Republic of Korea. Everyone, I am proud to be at this historical and meaningful moment. We have reached consensus for the guidelines to build a brighter future for the 3 countries. Today proved that when we were tested in times of hardship, we chose not to let this journey end. We haven't faltered nor abandoned our duties in a mission for peace and cooperation. We today have set goals to achieve higher standards and to deliver our precious common values and criteria to future generations. It was my greatest honor to be a part of this ambitious summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Sincere Premier. Japanese Prime Minister, now you may proceed with your final comments.
Okay, thank you. We would like to express our sincere appreciation to the Republic of Korea for hosting this summit, and 3 countries now have reached plenty of fruitful agreements. For now, I wish the friendship for People's Republic China, Japan, and Korea will pass for generations. And thank you again. I'm looking forward to see you next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. It is a privilege to see the joint statements that have been drawn successfully. Once again, I would like to thank China and Japan for their active contribution and participation in the 2015 Trilateral Youth Summit. As the host this year, the Republic of Korea is very pleased to see significant progress that we have made on various issues of common concerns, such as environment, economy, and culture. The joint statements we have passed not only reflects comprehensive agenda that are common to all three nations, but also shows our commitment to make Northeast Asia economically, environmentally, and culturally more prosperous region. Therefore, the Republic of Korea believes that our continued cooperation across Northeast Asia will bring peace and prosperity to our region. This concludes the 2015 Trilateral Youth Summit. Distinguished national leaders, honorable delegates and guests, thank you for your participation. Now we will conclude this model summit. Thank you for your cooperation. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much. This is the end of our model summit. So all distinguished national leaders, honorable TCS, and fellow delegates, I would like to thank you all again for your hard efforts for this summit. Now it is time for taking up pictures. All delegates, TCS, and national leaders, please come to the front.
다섯 달 전부터 세운 계획, 넉 달간 아르바이트, 여행책 여행 다큐 완전 정보. 드디어 나의 첫 해외여행. 딱 하나 빠뜨렸다. 다음 기회로 필요할 것 같다.
미리미리 확인하겠지? 맹충아. 여행 경보제도부터 여행 체크리스트까지
미리미리 확인하자. 해외 안전여행. 야 나와 이씨.
오늘을 위해 고등학교 3년, 대학교 4년 새벽밤 회화 6달 약속은 항상 이태원 드디어 나의 첫 프리토킹 아민 뭐? 82-3210 영사영사 영사콜센터
No problem. They really say you can walk online.
비급할 땐 바로바로 영사콜.
I know. What would you like to have for your main course?
아 영사콜.
No. 이게 발트만.